Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the PTSD Buddies podcast. And I, again, am your host, Jamie. And today I am talking with Kathleen. Kathleen tells a very interesting story, and it kind of ends in some sorrow because, you see, Kathleen lost her husband to a terrible accident. And she tells us about that terrible accident and how it affected her. But before that, she talks about her childhood and how um, she was raised with six other siblings, and her dad was a World War II veteran, and how the struggles were for her parents and herself. Anyway, that's all coming up next on the PTSD Buddies podcast, so stay tuned. So, Kathleen, thanks for, first of all, for doing this. I know for some people, quite a lot of people, sharing their story in public is scary. So I commend you on doing it.
Well, I do believe it's very cathartic to do it because, like you mentioned earlier, it does help to get some of the pain off,
Yeah, it does help.
and it may inspire somebody else to go and talk to someone or something. It doesn't have to be a paid professional. It could be a priest or a tree or write it down on a piece of paper and burn it.
Yeah.
Whatever works for whomever.
Yep, I hear you. Well, let's start at the beginning, Kathleen. Where were you born to? Like country, province, state wise?
I was born in Toronto.
In Toronto?
Yep. I
Right.
was the baby of six kids.
6 kids. Wow.
Yep.
How was your childhood?
It was pretty. I don't really remember a lot of the earlier years. My parents had a really rough marriage.
Oh, yeah.
My father was abusive.
Okay.
Not physically, but emotionally.
Yep.
He would hold back money for the kids for food.
Really?
If if she wasn't cooperative, I guess, in certain ways. But I don't know any, like, I don't remember anything like that. I remember a different father.
Yeah.
What I do remember very, very vaguely. But yeah, it was with my brothers and sisters. It was worse for them.
Oh, really?
But for my sister and I, we had a different father, but he was had an accident at work and was had to be hospitalized for a while, and then he wasn't welcome back home.
Oh, wow.
So my mom raised pretty well, had the 6 kids on her own, or maybe 5 or 4 at that time. I'm not 100% sure. And the one sister was, very outgoing, let's say.
Yep.
And then the other brother that I had did definitely have some mental health issues. He was doing all sorts of rotten things, and made my mother's life very worse than worse than it needed to be. And my mother, did have one nervous breakdown, and all the kids were farmed out to different family members where they weren't treated the greatest.
Wow.
But my sister Ann and I weren't born yet. And my grandmother took care of my mother. They were going to put her in an institution, but my grandmother said no. and my grandmother is somewhat sort of nursed her back to health, kind of sort of. And then she went back home and back to her marriage and back to the same
Wow.
abuse. And then after, but I think whatever my grandmother did also helped give her the strength to ask him to leave
Yeah.
and permanently. And so she did that. And then, but after that, she just wasn't the same. She was just very lethargic all the time. And so it was pretty rough on her.
Yeah, and it sounds like it was rough on the kids.
Yeah. As I said, my brothers and sisters, they had it worse than my my sister and I did. Um, Anne was born in 62. I was born in 63. So, um, we had a different father than what they had.
Yeah.
And when he left, it was hard on us. Like it was very hard on us when he left, and we didn't, fully understand why. And I remember every Christmas asking my mother to bring my father back home, and she always said the same thing every year. Like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand it. I completely understand it now. But I mean, I don't completely um, blame my father, so to speak, for the way that he was. Apparently, he had a rough childhood,
Mm.
so kind of like the trickle down. And I know you don't. I'm not making excuses for him, but
Yeah.
I can't necessarily judge the man because from what I've been told from the family was, yeah, it was rough for them.
Yeah.
But I knew him. I knew a different person, and he also served in World War II.
Okay.
So when he came back, that's got to do some. From what I was told, he did go to the front lines, and he did. He wasn't a rifleman, so to speak, but he did have to go and pick up um, human remains after the front lines went in. He went in after and cleaned them up. I heard that. I've heard that from two different people, but I'm not 100% sure, because then I also was told that he fixed the military jeeps. So I don't know how I can get that information, but I do have his military records, and I didn't see anything in there about that. But mind you, I haven't really read every single page, so there's quite a few pages.
Well, either
Uh,
way, you don't have to be on the front lines to be affected by war. He was in World War II. That's some serious trauma.
yeah, he did. He was part of the storm on Normandy.
Wow.
Um,
Holy. That's something else. Like I'm a veteran, so I know
I
that's
had a funny feeling you were. Yeah,
yeah,
I kind of had a
that's
funny feeling you were.
I'm a veteran, and so yeah, the beaches of Normandy. That's wow. That's all I can say is wow.
Yeah, like it's pretty fascinating when you go to. I can't remember the site now, but you can get any of your relatives' military records, and I've got. They sent me a big stack of papers, and when he went AWOL and what his pay was, and you know um, physical issues that he was having, mental issues that he was having, all sorts of fascinating information that was just was just bizarre to read. That like this is what my father went through. This is exactly where he went and when he went and when
Yeah,
he came back, and it's quite fascinating when you read these documents. So anybody listening, they can access their relatives' military records if they so choose.
yeah. So they are sorry, your siblings knew a different person than what you knew from him, was it?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What was it like? What was it like reading all these, like hearing all the, or reading all these things about your father? Did that help like piece the puzzle together a little bit?
Well, I think so, because I think he was obviously suffering from something. I mean, I personally believe that we're all, and I use this term, we're all touched. Um, some are touched with more gifts, and some are touched with less gifts, or they just don't, um, or they just don't acknowledge it. There's a lot of people. I think a lot of people just, no, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm perfectly fine. Meanwhile, in the back of their head, they're going, well, but they won't acknowledge it, and that's fine. I mean, that's their story and their issue, and they'll have to deal with that if and when it arises. But I believe that whatever happened to him, um, I believe he was one of those children that, if you didn't do what you were told when you were told, they got the switch.
Yep.
Um, and that's basically your discipline. That's how you're disciplined, is just by the switch. And
Yep.
but again, I don't know enough about that, my father's side of the family, because my parents broke up, and I didn't, wasn't going to ask them at this point. And I'm trying to get information out about their side. But believe it or not, one of the girls that I was bullied with at school, or bullied by, ended up marrying into my family. Figure that one out.
Wow, that must have been weird.
It's very weird. And I saw her at my uncle's funeral, and it's just, I never said anything then, but I literally did, um, about a month back. And I said, I have to tell you this story. And she said, I just don't remember any of it. And whether she's telling the truth or not, she did apologize. And, but it was just really weird. But I'm trying to get information out from her, huh, um, about my father's family.
Okay.
But I do think that, possibly, if what I heard was true, that, and then of course our own DNA, and then being in the war. Not that I'm not excusing his actions,
Right.
but we all have demons inside, and his came out that way.
So your dad was in World War II. He definitely had his demons. And your mom went to live with your grandmother because she wasn't doing well, and then all the kids got separated. That's a lot, Kathleen. That's a
Yeah.
good movie.
Well, I mean, it's probably happened, possibly happened more than. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Oh, I'm sure it
you
happens
know,
to other people, but it's just not.
yeah.
You don't hear about it every day. Like that's a lot for you to have to go through, especially as a younger person. I mean, how long were you living in the house with your mom or your dad or anything?
Anne and my sister and I weren't born yet when my mom had her nervous breakdown.
Right.
So we weren't involved in the family being separated. That was the other four that had
Okay.
that.
Okay.
They got back together after she was better, and then had two more children. So, but again, I knew a completely different father from what I recall. He was nice and kind and gentle and loving, and that's,
Well, I think
um,
even my kids can remember different dad. There was a dad that came home from Afghanistan, and then there's the dad now. I'm a lot different than what I was when I first came home.
yeah. And again, I mean, I'm not sure what you went through and what your role was in comparison to him, but I
I'm
do
not even going to
find
compare.
that each war is each war is different. I mean,
Oh yes,
you
100%.
can't compare, Vietnam, Korea, Afghanistan. World War II, they're all so different because they're in different areas. You have different equipment, you have different support, you have, like, I couldn't,
No, there's no way to compare tours. We can't even compare Afghanistan tours from one to the other. Every tour is different. But I will say everyone's affected by war.
yeah.
And it spreads. The soldier comes home and it spreads into the family. Because the family
Yeah, and
with that person.
I think, yeah, it must have, it must have done something. I would assume. I mean, again, I don't know enough to. I wish he was alive, that I could um, talk to him and say, so what happened, But unfortunately, that has not happen. Can't happen.
So, how long were you living with your siblings before you moved out?
I lived at home till I was 18. I got married at 18.
Married at 18?
Uh, my my father walked to my wedding. He lived at Kingston Road. This is in Toronto. Kingston Road. I think it's Kingston Road in Danforth. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. No, not Kingston Road, but it was on Kingston Road way. And he walked like, I can't even tell you how far that was. He walked, but he walked like a good 5 miles, 4 miles. He walked to my wedding.
Wow.
And I was really shocked to see him there.
He wanted to be there.
He wanted to be there. He wasn't well. He didn't look well when when I was at the wedding. And unfortunately, 4 days after my wedding, he had a stroke. He fell off his balcony and landed on his car in the parking lot below.
Are you kidding?
No.
Wow. Honest to God.
Yeah. So that was, he died en route to hospital, and I was on my honeymoon. They tried to find me, but couldn't. And they had the uh, state patrol, state police. I can't think what you call them.
Yeah.
Try to find me.
Oh, yeah. They kept trying to find you on your honeymoon.
Yeah. And so we called home one day, and they're like, "Oh, we want to talk to Bill, and want to wish him a happy birthday." And I'm like, "Okay." So I put him on the phone, and Bill had got the news, and then told me, and we drove home the next day. And when I got to the house, I don't know why. I guess I was too nervous to fly by myself, and I was only 18 and I've been on a plane, and I guess I didn't want to get on a plane. I don't know why, what happened, but probably that's what happened.
Yeah.
And when we got home, I was sitting there having a chat with my mom about everything that had happened and the funeral and so on and so forth. And my sister comes up the walk, and she's all dressed in black. And I'm like, "Mom, we're not Italian. Why is Mary all dressed in black?" I said, "We don't do that stuff. Because we're just good old regular Canadians, Catholic Canadians, and you know, we didn't do that." She said, "Oh, well, there was a complication at your father's service." And I'm like, "How could there be a complication at Dad? It's a funeral. How could you have a complication?" And they said, "Well, do you remember your Aunt Grace?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she said, "Well, she had a heart attack and died at your father's service." So Mary's just coming back from the funeral.
Holy moly.
So needless to say, my honeymoon was a nightmare.
Yeah.
And was not a great way to start a marriage. But you know, about 3 years after that, and my mother was diagnosed with cancer and passed away in 1984.
Oh,
So I was parentless basically at 22.
22.
Yeah.
Not very old. Kathleen, never
No,
get old at all.
no, it's I miss her. I mean, I miss my dad too. I mean, I talk to them here and there, and I get signs from them here and there, and
Yeah.
even though I'm 59, I still miss my mommy. you know,
Yep.
um,
That's
and
normal. That's normal.
yeah, but I mean, growing up, it was different. I was sexually molested as a child by a family member.
By a family member.
Yeah,
I'm amazed by how many times I hear that.
yeah.
Was this
I didn't.
while your dad and mom were still alive? Or no, you said it was
Yeah.
your
Oh yeah.
child, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that something you
So
kept
that.
to yourself?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I never told a single soul until I guess I got older and started seeing psychiatrists or therapists or psychologists or
So the therapist was the
whomever.
first person you told, was it?
I'm assuming so. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't really remember.
Do you remember how old you were? Is that okay to ask?
Um, I'm not really sure. 8, 10.
Wow, man.
But I don't.
And
I
a
just
family
remember one.
member, I can't imagine what that was like as a child to, how do you trust an
Well,
adult?
they made it like a game, so it was supposed to be fun and
Yeah.
enjoyable, and I didn't know any better,
Yeah.
um, so I just went along with the game, so to speak. But um,
So I guess
many,
it was like many years later that you realized it wasn't a game.
yeah,
Yeah. Wow.
yeah, and I, I, I mentioned it to family members after this particular family member passed away, and nobody believed me. So
Really.
yeah, so
That
it's
must
like
have
that's
felt
okay.
that must have felt so horrible.
Yeah, I know I'm telling the truth. I know what I remember, but if you don't think I'm telling the truth, then that's fine. Like I
Yeah.
know the truth. They know the truth, and God knows the truth, and that's all that matters to me.
Yeah. Like, why would you lie about that? I mean, what would you get out of lying?
Oh, sympathy, attention.
Yeah, I guess.
People do all sorts of things for all sorts of stupid reasons, but I know for a fact that uh, uh, incident, I recall one specifically, but I don't know if there was more before that or after that. I don't know if I've blocked it all out. I am going to go for some deep therapy to try and get those memories out to figure out what exactly happened, and then I'll know better
I
and I'll
say
be
it's a
able
good
to
thing your
deal with
daddy
it.
didn't find out.
I'm sorry.
I say it's a good thing your daddy didn't find out. I bet you he would have believed you.
I don't know. Uh, it's yeah. I don't know if he would or he wouldn't. I don't know.
I think he would have. He sounded like you were his little girl, right?
I think so. Yeah. I think it was Daddy's favorite.
Yeah.
Um, but I was the last one, so I mean, I don't know. I
Yeah,
have no
but he
idea.
probably had time to decompress since the war, after you were born.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah,
he was more level-headed and everything. He understood a little bit better, and I say
yeah,
you were his whole world.
yeah. Um, a time, as they say, heals all wounds, and I mean, it's not. I don't, I don't, I don't agree with that statement, but I mean, do mean that time eases the pain a
Yeah.
little bit, or memories fade and you forget. Um, but um, I know with recently being diagnosed with PTSD, um, certain things that have happened with that, or also leading up to the diagnosis, has softened over the years. Still brutal. I had a meltdown last night, um, or Saturday night. Yeah, oh, last night. Yeah. um, so it's definitely, this the triggers are always there, and we have to confront them and we have to deal with them, and otherwise they will tear you apart and do all sorts of things to you.
Excuse me. Kathleen, with your trauma, with you being affected by trauma at such a young age, do you feel like you've always dealt with PTSD your whole life, or was there a I want to use the word normal stage, but is any of us normal?
No, I think I've always had something.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I mean, I can see why I mean, you, you were hit by trauma at such an early age. You know, I can see how you were probably dealing with symptoms your whole life.
yeah. In um, in 1975, I was shot.
You were shot.
Yeah, walking down the street.
Jeez.
Um, my sister, my sister was going up to visit my other sister.
This is still in Toronto, right?
Yeah,
Wow.
and whatchamacallit, and they said, "Oh, you better go see your sister. Something's wrong. She got bit by a big bug or something." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So
Okay.
I went up to go and get my sister, and then I felt this big sting, and I looked, and there was a hole in my leg, and I'm like, "What the?" I'm like, "That must be a really big bug," because I thought it was just like a mosquito that bit me and buried a hole in my leg, and
Yeah.
wasn't bleeding or anything. It was just a hole in my leg.
Really?
And got my sister, and like I remember falling to the ground and people looking at it, and nobody knew what it was, and
Did you hear a
got my
gunshot or
sister.
anything?
No, no.
Oh, what? Wow. Okay.
And got my sister, went home, told my mom about it, and, oh, we'll put a whatever on it. And then a few days later it healed over, and neighbor came by, and we told her about it, and she said, "Oh, my dear," she said, "you've been shot." And I said, "I've been what?" And my father took me to, we called my father, and my father came and took me to the ER department and pulled it out. Now, it was a BB gun bullet,
Yeah.
BB gun pellet or whatever. So it wasn't, as people say, it's not a real bullet.
It went
So,
into your leg, so you can tell those people to suck it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's like, well, okay, it wasn't a real gun bullet, but it's called a pellet gun or a BB gun. So the word gun is there, and there's a piece of metal that flies from it. And no, it's not as damaging as a real bullet, but
To all the people listening who says, "Yeah, that's not a real bullet," Kathleen wants to shoot you in the leg with her BB gun, and let's see how you feel.
Yeah, no,
I went into your leg. That's serious.
I'm so not into guns. I hate I hate the thought of people having guns. I don't all this gun stuff on the street. It's I would love to run for politics, but I know I would probably be killed within the first week or so because of my views of this, that, and the other. And um, yeah, I would not do well as a politician
Me neither. I think
because
I would support.
yeah, I'd bring back the death penalty. I'd put automatic uh, breathalyzers in every car, and I'd take all these cars that go 200 kilometers an hour, and that would all be every car would be remanufactured to the maximum it'll go is 120, so or 140 maybe.
Yeah.
But that yeah, I would not last long as a politician.
More PTSD Buddies podcasts after a word from our sponsors. PTSD Buddies podcast is proud to be sponsored by Spartan Wellness. Spartan Wellness is a Canadian organization, and I'm proud to say that I'm a member of Spartan Wellness. I use medical cannabis, and one of the things that Spartan Wellness does is help people, Canadians, get medical cannabis if they need it. You don't need to be just a veteran or a member of the RCMP. They'll help anybody get medical cannabis. Now, that's not the only thing they do. As a veteran, they also will help veterans deal with Veterans Affairs. Veterans Affairs can sometimes get a little confusing with different. Now, this is not against Veterans Affairs themselves. They're a great organization, but sometimes veterans can get a little confused with filling out forms and everything, and Spartan Wellness is there to assist with that. They also assist with insurance and rehab platforms. They can help assist you with Veterans Affairs and setting up with your Blue Cross provider. Not only do they help you with your getting your medical cannabis prescription, they'll help you pick out the right licensed producer for you, because Spartan Wellness works with all the medical cannabis producers out there, and they can help you pick the right one for you. They also provide lots of medical cannabis education. So maybe you're not sure if medical cannabis is right for you. They're here to provide all the education you need and answer any questions you have. And they'll even help you get all registered with that licensed producer once you choose it. Okay, so check out Spartan Wellness at spartanwellness.ca. They are a great team. Cheers. We are sponsored by the Tema Foundation. The Tema Foundation is a great foundation in Canada that helps first responders, military, frontline workers, the whole community deal with mental illness. The Tema Foundation strives to make mental health healthier for our first responders and frontline worker community. They've worked to create a free, I say again, a free online educational series that can help you cope with the daily stress, anxiety, and depression your career may bring you. PPE for Your Mind is a helpful collection of videos, ebooks, audiobooks, and much more. It's meant to help first responders, frontline workers, healthcare professionals, public safety personnel, military, and the important people in our lives. To all those who work to keep us healthy and safe, the Tema Foundation hopes PPE for Your Mind will help build your resilience as you continue to fight for the benefits of us all. Find PPE for Your Mind free along with other educational materials at www.tema.foundation. That's www.tema.foundation. You can make sure to follow the Tema Foundation also on all the social media, just to stay in the loop on all the things they got coming up, because they in the past have run galas and everything. So you really want to keep up on the Tema Foundation. They're doing a lot for Canada. And let me just add in, living in Newfoundland, I am the Newfoundland ambassador for the Tema Foundation. So check them out, the Tema Foundation. They are there to help.
And life went on, and I got married at 18. I had 2 children. Life was pretty life was pretty normal. Uh, and then my marriage fell apart. I left the marriage anyway.
Oh yeah.
Um, and then I was on my own for a very long time. And, struggled with dating and mental health issues, trying to figure out why I couldn't meet anybody normal because you men out there are freaks. Us women are perfect, of course.
Kathleen, may I ask, was there a reason why you the marriage didn't work? Or why you left?
I
Was
can't talk about that. Yeah, no, I can't
no
talk about
okay,
that.
no
No.
problem.
Um, but yeah, so I just trying to date, and then it was, um, I have a funny feeling I had something to do with it too. And then all of a sudden one day I met this guy who was not on my list at all of 5 years up and down, no smoking, didn't live with family, all of this stuff. I was like, nope, nope, nope. He doesn't check all the boxes. Forget it. Not happening. And met him and started dating and fell in love. And he was 13 years my senior, smoked. He was a trucker. But he was he was home every day. Didn't do long haul anymore. It was just short haul.
Okay.
Met him, and about at that time I was also going through. I was at a job that I really loved. Really loved my job. I had the first manager I had was challenging. Um, he was a nice person, but he was a lousy manager.
Okay.
And then he left the organization. And then we had another manager. He was wonderful. Loved this other manager. He was great. He left the organization. And then the other management came in from the US and started changing this and that. And workplace bullying and harassment happened regularly, regularly.
Okay.
So I taught,
Workplace bully is not that's no fun.
yep, yep. I I talked to Gary about it, and he said, "Well, what you do," and he said, "is you're going to quit that job. You're going to move in with me, and we'll figure something else out."
Nice.
And I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
So I did that. I moved in with him in the fall um, of 2016. I um, I proposed to him. He said yes, and we didn't have a specific date. I was always teasing him about the wedding, and
Right. Yeah.
just I did definitely wanted to marry him. That's for sure. He was such an amazing support. Like, just very rare breed to find a man that was.
And it makes a big difference when you find that right support. Hey, you have that good
Yeah,
support.
yeah,
That's a game changer.
yeah. Um, and then one fine morning, I was driving to work and I called him and he wasn't answering his phone. And I kept hearing noises in the background, but I thought, okay, he's at the loading dock. He's just getting his papers, and
Yeah.
I'll I'll um I'll try again later. And I tried again a few minutes later, same thing. I tried again when I got to work, same thing. And I'm like, something's not right.
Yeah.
And I then called this manager and I'm like, I need to speak to whatever the person's name was. I forget now.
Yeah.
Um, and they're in a meeting right now. They can't come to the phone, but they'll 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 definitely call you back. And I'm like, okay, because I can't reach Gary. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And then I got a call from his sister and told me to come home.
Oh no.
And I came home and I knocked on her door. She opened the door and she said he's gone. And
Oh, Kathleen. Holy.
he was
So sorry.
he was killed in a crossover incident, I call it. I don't call it an accident because I don't really know everything that happened that night. So I call it a crossover incident.
Okay.
They didn't do a breathalyzer on the other trucker. I found more information out about the other trucker.
Yeah.
And just yeah, they was a. I know the weather was not favorable that night. It was a blizzard. There's an episode on Heavy Rescue 401 where there's smoke, there's fire, and that's Gary's story.
Okay.
It took them 5 hours to extricate him.
Oh my goodness.
Whatchamacallit, he was talking to his dispatcher at the exact same time
Are you
when
kidding?
it happened. No,
Oh God.
his dispatcher listened to everything. And I've got the dash cam footage from the incident. I've yet to watch it. I was close one night
Really
a
have?
few months ago.
I don't think I could do it.
No, I haven't done it yet. It's been 5 years, and I haven't done it yet. I don't know if it's good for me to watch it to figure something out or not watch it at all and just take it and throw it in the garbage. Like I quite haven't figured that part out yet.
Yeah, my first thought is I don't think it would be good to watch, but I can't answer that question for you.
Yeah. The few months after that, or the next 18 months after that, was dealing with the court system. And as most Canadians know, our justice system is ridiculous. I call it our injustice system.
Hmm.
Again, I don't know exactly what happened that night, but I know the courtroom antics by the other driver and his family, and the pain that I was going through, and not having the answers. It's just, it still haunts me. It still bothers me. It's still
Sure. I mean, you said it was only 5
that'll,
years ago.
yeah,
That
it'll,
was so much trauma, and I'm sorry. That's still fresh.
the, yeah, that'll haunt me until as I classify, I go home,
Yeah.
until I know what the real truth is. But then, it doesn't really matter at that point, like, it still doesn't give me any. And again, I mean, I don't, if nothing really happened that night, if it was just bad weather, then that's the way it was, and it was his time. And I don't like it, but I understand it.
Yep.
But if there was something that other driver had done, then I wanted him to be held accountable.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because as far as I'm concerned, they didn't do enough investigation.
Yeah.
From everything that I know about it, they didn't do enough investigation. And, another person walks away from Canada without paying their dues. They also allowed him to leave the country for a couple of months because supposedly a family member was ill. I don't know if that's true or not.
Mm-hmm.
I was upset because, of course, it dragged out the trial process, which made it harder on us.
Sure did, yes.
And then during the day that I had to give my victim impact statement, he was sitting there and his phone rang right in the middle of my testimony.
Hmm.
And the judge just did nothing. And it was just a big joke. It was just a big joke.
How did you feel? Was that anger or sadness?
Oh, I was furious.
Furious?
I was furious at that moment when that phone rang. I looked at the judge and I'm just like, really?
Yeah.
And she said, we'll take a break and we'll come back. And I finished my testimony after that, and the sentencing was handed down, and there was no sentence. There was $500 fine. If you move, you have to let us know.
Yeah.
And the best one was, you can't do this again. I don't I don't understand what that meant.
No, I don't get that either.
It made no sense to me. It made no sense, and it still doesn't. And
No, it
it's
doesn't
so
make
very
sense.
painful all these years later. It's so very painful
Yeah, I'm
because
so
I
sorry.
miss
I mean,
the person.
yeah, I guess
There
you feel like there was no justice, eh?
was no justice. There was no justice whatsoever.
And now you're left to pick up the pieces.
Yep. And you know, I think of him every day. I kiss his picture all the time. Um, I still wear our rings. Um,
You said you felt your parents around sometimes. Do you feel him as well?
yeah, I get messages from him all the time. Yeah,
Yeah.
he came. I actually had two magnificent dreams with him. Um, the one was so vivid. It was so real. He was sitting on a couch and I come in and I was like a puppy dog and I saw him and I bounced right on his lap and I was kissing his face and I was just like I felt like I was a puppy dog but I knew I was me and he was laughing and laughing and laughing and it was so amazing. Like, it's, oh my God, you're here.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it just wanted to stay there all night. And then the next one was really bizarre, but it was kind of um it was kind of a future knowing or something. Like, I'll explain it when I explain the dream. So I was leaving a party and I was going to drive his truck home.
Yep.
No idea how I would drive his big rig, but that was my plan. But when I got to his big rig, it was the way that I went to see it, because I went to see his vehicle after he was killed. I went to see his vehicle, and there was no roof on it. There was the frame, but there was no, like, so you could see the sky and stuff. Excuse me. So then I went to so in this dream, I was going to drive this big rig home somehow, but it was filled with snow.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, I got to get all this snow out. Well, Gary came by and wanted to help me get all the snow out. And he's like, I'm going to help. I'm going to get all the snow out for you. I'm going to clean it all out for you. He said, but then I got to go. And then he was with me cleaning out all the snow. And then he said, okay, I got to go. But you could see there was part of him that was still with me. And there was another part of him walking away into a light. So I had a funny feeling that was the last time I'd ever see him again in my dreams, because I knew there was a part of him that was always going to be with me.
Yeah.
And the part that was walking on towards the light, because he had to go. He had, there is, I do believe in life after death. I do believe in reincarnation. I do believe in spirits and angels, and
So do I.
um
I believe
and
in messages and dreams too. It almost sounds like there was something more in that dream, like a message.
yeah, like the message was to me was there's going to be a part of him that's always going to be with me, but the other part of him had to go, because it's like we believe there's reasons why we're here, um and we have to leave for reasons that we I believe that like um you're you make your life plan before you're born, and you're going to pick your family where you go, and you're going to pick your situations, because there's certain levels of um heaven that you want to get to. If you want to be an angel, an archangel, I don't know, a librarian. I'm not sure if all the roles up there yet.
Yeah.
But I do believe that in order to achieve these, you have to learn certain things. And until you get it and you get it right, you're going to keep coming back down to what we classify this as hell. This is hell, and heaven is heaven.
Yeah.
Um, and so I do believe in all of that, and he had to go, because it was it was his time, and I, I'm in a better place with that now. 5 years on, it 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 finally hit me at the 5 year mark. I'm not sure what happened, because I've been dealing with so much. Um,
Well, anniversaries
After
of certain things can be tough too.
yeah, the anniversaries, the 16th of every month bothers me.
Yeah.
His birthday bothers me.
Yeah. A lot of things can
Certain
remind you
things,
of those dates, eh?
yeah.
Yeah.
Certain things, when I look at certain things in the grocery store, frozen turkeys bother me, because we had a plan about one Christmas, about Christmas dinner, and we were talking about frozen turkeys, and for some reason we wanted to put those little fancy panties on the turkey, and it was like, what size of panties does this turkey wear? And it was just bizarre. Black licorice bothers me, because I know he liked black licorice. um and then Black Russian, he liked his Black Russian drinks.
Okay.
When he didn't drink hardly at all, because he couldn't, being a trucker, you just can't do that.
Yep, I hear you.
And so he drove, he drank. He'd have a couple on the weekend, Friday night, but one or two, that would be pretty well it. He was also diabetic, so he had to be careful. Um so but um but yeah, there's so many different things that trigger it. And I have his picture. I know the first home I moved into, um after he passed, I had every room had something of him in there. And my one girlfriend, I've known this sweet woman for 55 years now, and we're still great friends. And she said it's like a shrine in every room. said, you got to stop that. You can't have a shrine of him in every room. It's just not healthy.
Yep.
So eventually, as I moved and moved and moved, because it's part of my issue is moving. I'm always trying to run away from, and I've moved like 6 or 7 times, I think, since his passing.
Do you feel like it's a fresh start when you move?
Yeah,
Yeah. And
but
is it
it's still,
helping?
but it's no,
No. Okay.
because no, because I keep doing it. I'm not allowing myself to settle,
Yeah.
and it's gonna come out in therapy eventually.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, if you move 6 times in 5 years, that is a lot.
oh no, it's been at least it's been at least 6 times, I think.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah, I think around 6 times. But I'm always trying to run away, and it's running away is not going to solve the issue.
Sometimes we do this without even realizing it, but we keep ourselves so busy. And by doing so, by keeping yourself busy, you don't have time to think about what's really bothering us.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm definitely a barrier. I like to bury my problems and not confront them.
Well, I can see that. I mean, today I texted you, "How you doing?" and you listed off jobs that you're doing. Right?
Yeah.
You're keeping busy.
Yeah. Well, lately it's been getting better. A couple months back, I would just sit around. I was quite numb for a couple months,
Yeah,
and now I'm on a better path and hopefully on the right path towards healing. I've got some counseling starting.
that's good.
I'm on a new course of medication, so I'm hoping that's going to help. And
Medication is always tough. Medication is great when you find the right medication, but it can sometimes be really hard to find what's right for you.
well, and there's so much. I'm a big conspiracy theorist too, and I know, like a lot of the medications that you take, well, if you take this, you may get this, 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 and this. So in order to
Yeah,
combat this, you need
yeah,
to take this pill. And with this, you're going to get this, 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 or this. So you're going to
yeah,
need to take that pill.
yeah,
So my one pill that I take to help me with, which by the way, you can take antidepressants that will make you suicidal, which makes perfect sense.
hmm
Um, my medicine for high blood pressure can also make me depressed.
yep.
And some of my antidepressants can give me high blood pressure or low blood pressure. So they don't work well with each other. So so I've thought over and over in my head, do I take this? Do I not take this? Let me try this natural thing. Let me try this natural thing. It's ridiculous. Like yeah, and what is it doing to the rest of your body?
Yep.
And of course, there's always the cost.
And that's what I'm talking about. It's hard to
Not
find the right
everybody
medication.
has. Sorry.
I said, and that's what I was talking about. It's so hard sometimes to find the right medication.
Yep. Yeah, because at the very beginning of the medication, when you start it, you have this side effect and this side effect, and then you try it, and then you try it for a couple of months, and it's like, no, it's not working. Okay, well, we need to increase it. Okay, well, we increase it. And then how are you feeling? Well, I think I'm getting there, but I'm not sure. Okay, well, let's increase it. Okay, so we increase it and we try that. And then so we increase it. And then it's like, no, I don't think this is working. Okay, well, let's start over. Let's start with this new one. Well, meanwhile, this one's gonna give you all sorts of weird side effects. I've had some that have given me some bizarre side effects.
hmm
Um, and it's like, no, can't take that one. No, don't want that one. That's no good. Let's So it is. There's a lot of trial and error with the with the medications. And it's tough on the body to keep doing it, because you have hope, you want to get well. But unfortunately, it's not an overnight, fix. You
Yeah.
can't just take this, this medication, and 48 hours later, you're perfectly fine and calm and not grieving. And
Well, what kind of things do you find do work?
I used to find that exercise was a great um, detractor. It would help get out some of the frustration and the
Yep.
anger.
Yep.
I would also be feeling better physically about my appearance.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, and you just felt great getting rid of all of that frustration and anger. And I found that the exercise was really great. But um, in the past few years, I've had it ups and downs. And I think with the trials and tribulations of medication adjustments and job changes and other family issues, I mean, it all compounds into the same, like just a giant snowball.
Yep. I hear you. Yeah.
And so it's hard to, until you get on, like you said, until you get on the right path.
Yeah.
And I
It's hard to exercise when you're trying new medications. Eh?
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I limit um the bad people in my life now. I have one individual that I do not get along well with, and I just limit my contact with them, because they are very draining. They're like, I know in the spiritual world there's a word for it, and I can't think what they are, but they're like
Vampire.
spiritual. Thank you. Yeah, they're like a spiritual vampire. They just like to suck the life right out of me.
They're a real
And
thing. They're a real thing.
yeah, I believe that, and I just limit my time with them, because it just doesn't work well. So I just don't. And and I believe in astrological signs as well, and people think I'm crazy, and that's okay. Um, I definitely avoid certain, like when I find out somebody's a certain sign, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, you're one of those. And it's like, I don't necessarily say it to them, because I did that before, and somebody had said, oh, so you know you're this sign and you're perfect. I said, oh no, oh no, we have our issues too. That's just that you people are nuts. And yeah, I just don't. I just do my darndest to not have any relationships with any of that particular sign, because it just doesn't work well for me at all. Whether it's a romantic relationship, or a physical, or just a friendship, it just, I know. So I'm just a little bit more careful now as to who I let in. And but definitely I find that finding something that you enjoy um, definitely helps to distract you, or to help you, give your brain a break, so to speak.
And you have
Uh,
dogs too. So do they help?
the dogs definitely help. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the dogs I had before um, were the dogs. Like, dogs are all different. These ones aren't as emotionally supportive as my other dogs I had before. These ones are just they're just completely different. And the one's got such a, she kind of reminds me of me, a little bit insecure, a little bit shy, a little bit fun loving, a little bit crazy. And the other one's just, a tiny chihuahua, and he's just a big bully. And he just, like he tried to chase a truck tonight when we were out for our WALK. And I'm
Yeah,
like, why are you chasing a truck? Like it's so they do help.
I'm a dog person. I can tell you the small ones are a lot of times the tougher ones.
Yeah, he's like, I don't understand it. Like, it just, like, you're so tiny, and like you can fit in my palm of my hand is how small he is. Literally weighs 5 pounds.
I used to own a Great
Um,
Dane. I only lost the I lost a Great Dane just like maybe 3 months ago.
oh God, I'm so sorry.
And thanks. And that dog was the biggest sook, the biggest puss. Right? We have a cat too, and it was scared of the cat. It was scared of everything, but it was 150 pounds.
Oh, I love. There's somebody down the street from me, and I don't know where it is, but they have this massive dog, and I can't remember what it was called, but it's like, I look out my window one day and I saw this massive dog. I'm like, what the flip is that thing? And
Yeah.
I ran out to the street and I'm like, sir, what is that? And he brought it up to the house, and I was in my glory because I love the big dogs, and it's just, they're just so fascinating to me. Just like,
I love dogs, period. I go into someone's house and they got a dog. I kind of sometimes pay more attention to the dog than I do the person.
well, animals are usually better than humans,
Yeah.
as
I
most of us all agree.
My wife laughs at me because I get along better with dogs, or I should say animals and children. Both animals and children kind of attract themselves to me.
Hello?
I get along great with both of them.
Hello?
Yeah, you still there? Hello? Hello? Kathleen? Hello? Hello?
Hello? Oh, hi.
I'm not sure what happened. I didn't even touch anything. It
Yeah, I don't know. It just disappeared, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't even touch my screen. Everything disappeared and came back on. It's almost like it disconnected and reconnected.
yeah, okay. But yeah, no, the dogs definitely do help with distraction.
Yeah,
I've joined a grief group. I've joined the PTSD group. Um, and there's a lot of amazing people in these groups. I'm definitely a group person because when I've had some major surgeries, I've joined different groups, and there's always people in there that understand exactly where you're coming from
yeah,
and can definitely guide you along a lot better than a family member or a friend,
yeah. When you find
because
someone who
they're
understands,
not going through it. Sorry.
when you find someone who understands, is a big thing.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah, because I mean, when I talk about um, the grief that I still suffer from, and or the PTSD from all of the events in my life, it's nice to get that feedback from other people to um, to help you find different ways of coping, and or getting it off your chest,
Yeah,
to let it to get it out. still, because it's still, no matter how many times I think I'm over it, so to speak, I'm not, and I don't think I ever will. Yes, it gets somewhat easier to deal with as time passes, but it's still, there's always those questions as to why and how come, and
Yeah.
why didn't this happen and why didn't that happen. And when I see different court cases in media, it definitely doesn't help, because it just brings me back to that courtroom that day, and
Yep.
many days with the courtroom, and staring that person in the face, and just listening to the Crown attorney drone on about something that I should have remembered, and I don't, because as they the fog, as they call it, the first year is like the fog.
Yeah.
um and I don't recall the first meeting that I had with the Crown attorney. I remember the second one because I yelled at him, but I don't remember the first one. um but it's still very raw for me.
Well, like I said, 5 years is not a long time, but it seems like you're doing everything right, Kathleen. You're keeping yourself busy. You're not too busy, but you're spending time with your dogs. Pets are always great. You're out walking and exercising. You're reading. You're cutting the toxic people out of your life. So it sounds like you're doing everything right, right? You're just not fully healed yet.
No, I know I still have a good road ahead of me. I only literally went for a walk today. Just I don't hardly do it. I don't walk my dogs nearly enough, and I'm trying to get myself back to the old me, the fun me that I was before all of this, because I miss her.
I
She's I
promise you,
don't I
she's
don't
gonna come
I
back.
don't like
She's gonna come
I
back.
don't like I don't like this new person. I don't like her at all.
Yeah, like I said, you need time to heal, though. That's all. I mean,
Yeah.
what you went through with the passing of your husband there. I mean, that's a lot, and to go through the courts and everything else, and you got so many reminders of all that. I mean, it's going to take time.
Yeah.
Like I said, you're doing everything right. You're seeing a professional. You're looking at the medications. You're exercising. You're getting out there. I can't think of
Yeah.
anything else you could be doing.
Yeah.
It's going to take time.
I'm gonna do my darndest, just not move
Yeah.
again. With try hopefully I can last this time, and not move, and stay put, and make a new final home, so to speak. um and make some kind of a new life, and
And Kathleen, if you do move again, just know it's okay. Try not to be
yeah.
hard on yourself. You're a good person, right? And you deserve happiness. But if you feel like a move is going to help you, then go for it.
Yeah, I just at this point, I think, I just have to stay put for a while and try and heal, and like you said, just keep doing what I'm doing,
Yep.
and trying to move forward, as best I can, and try to leave a little bit more baggage behind. Every day I move forward, I pick up something new, and I try and get rid of something old, and that's not serving my purpose anymore, and that will come in time.
There's a lot of listeners out there who are feeling for you, just like I am, but they're also learning from you, Kathleen.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, I mean, we all have our things that we have to do. As I said, going back to the spiritual, we have to learn these lessons for whatever reason. We don't fully understand until we go back home, and then we have that aha moment.
Yep.
um, but of course, that's beyond our knowledge at this particular, while we're down on this plane.
Yeah. I hear
Um,
you.
but
I hear you.
it's definitely a lot of hard work, and you can't just take a pill and make all the bad stuff go away, because it just doesn't work that way.
No, no. When you're dealing with mental illness and stuff like that, it is a lot of work, and it's something you got to work at every day. And it sounds like you're doing it. So, I'm very
Well,
proud of you, Kathleen, and I know there's a lot of other people who are proud of you.
mm,
And I
well,
really
I
appreciate you talking to us today.
well, I do want to say one more thing, is that at the beginning, and even up to a couple months back, suicide has never been too far away from my thoughts. And I know there's been a few stories in the media, and then a story or two that I've heard personally about suicide. And I people say that suicide is selfish, and I don't agree with that statement, because you're not living in that person's mind, body, soul. You don't know what they're going through. You're not them. So
That's
stop
true.
saying that suicide is selfish. They are hurting. They don't they aren't thinking of anybody else but themselves, because they can't. If I'm not feeling well myself, how can I help anybody else? And if I feel, like I'm being a burden to other people, we always assume that it's going to be better to just, to take ourselves out of the equation, and then it's going to give them one less person to worry about, but you are leaving them with a huge hole. It's not it, it's not an easy fix. um I'm not proposing suicide to anybody, absolutely not. There's lots of help out there. There really is. Tons of groups you can join, churches, and there's lots of help out there. It's just, you just gotta dig down that tiny little bit further, um, to try and get the help, because I've known people myself that have committed suicide, and it's a tough one. And I hope that anybody out there that's thinking that along those lines, to reach out to somebody, anybody. There's lots of help out there. You can get the help, but you also have to do a little bit of work in order to get well. And I hope that, you know, everybody is able to just find that particular person, to reach out to and get the help that they need.
And if they can't find that person, they can go on PTSD Buddies, and you can find me and Kathleen.
There you go. Absolutely. I'm available for anybody if they
Yeah.
need to talk.
Well, Kathleen, I really appreciate talking to us today. You tell an amazing story. You're an incredible woman. You are a strong woman, and I am proud to know you.
Thank you, Jamie. It's been a painful pleasure, but I do appreciate the fact that you did let me tell my story, and it does help me feel a little bit better. It'll be a rough night tonight, rethinking our thoughts, our conversation, but I know it will. I'll definitely wake up lighter, a lot lighter tomorrow. So I do thank you very much.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate you, Kathleen.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. You take care. And by the way, I meant to say this earlier and I completely forgot, and I do apologize. Thank you very much for your service, because I am a military brat myself. Uh, Having my father being in the Second World War, and I have such high regard for anybody in the military. I just think they're just an amazing, amazing group of people, and God bless our troops.
I hear you. God bless our troops, to the serving and the veterans. And a shout out to your dad, because your dad sounds like he was an amazing man.
Thank you.
You have a good one, Kathleen. Take care now.
You have a good night, eh? Take
All
care.
right. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone for joining us on this episode of the PTSD Buddies podcast. Hope you enjoyed the show. And if you or someone you know is dealing with PTSD, please look for PTSD Buddies on Facebook. You can join one of our great Facebook groups and get support. You can look for us on Twitter, Instagram, or check out our PTSD Buddies YouTube channel, full of hundreds of helpful videos to help you deal with PTSD. Cheers, everybody. Have a great one.